Okay, so we decided today we'd come out and we'd see if we can eliminate another possibility with the cycling issues on this rifle. We're going to use some 40 grain high velocity American Eagle. This is a Federal round. We've also got made by Browning. And as you can see here, that advertises 1435 velocity. So that's about 300 more than the bulk ammo than we've been using. And lastly, we've got a 22 grain 37 Winchester, and that's 1330 feet per second. So we're going to see if maybe our cycling issues go away just by packing a little bit more punch. Stay tuned. Now, because this is simply a function test, we're not going to mess around today with targets and accuracy. We already know this is a very accurate rifle. All I want to do is check the function. And already we have our first failure to eject. So, instant disappointment. Failure to eject number 2. Failure to chamber. And that's because we've got a load stuck in the chamber. It's awfully tempting to think right now that we don't have an ammunition issue. Next up, we're going to try the American Eagle. You're going to see right here that that's a solid lead bullet. And this is reported to be high velocity. Let's see. And right off the bat, we have a failure to eject. Kind of frustrating. And right off the bat, we have a second failure to eject. Since I'm able to get the last 5 off with no problems, but it's the first one that caused me problems, what's going on here? You see the same thing every time. I'm using higher velocity ammo, and it has not helped me at all. You see right here, what do we have? We ended up with a double feed. Failure to eject and a double feed. At this point, I'm tempted to think that my issue is not ammunition. Okay, well, I've started to form an opinion that it's not ammo, but just to go ahead and do what I thought I was going to do from the get-go, I'm going to try my third kind. This is the Winchester. This is a 37 grain. It is a hollow point, and this is advertised to fly out at over 1,300 feet per second. So let's see if that makes any difference. I got 4 down, and then I got the same issue. Already one in the chamber. Two more, and there we go. And there you go. So it doesn't seem to matter what position in the magazine the bullet is, although normally we're only able to get 2 or 3 off before this happens. I was starting to have the theory that, hey, maybe it's something to do with the magazine tension spring, something of that nature, and hey, if we only load 4, what's going to happen? Well, I'm going to just load 4 right now and see what happens. So proceeding now, again with my unscientific experiment, I've decided I'm just going to load 4 rounds. I picked the Winchester, no particular reason, because they all basically malfunction the same way in this firearm. But we're going to see what happens if I just load up 4. And I get 2 shots off, and there we go. So, starting to form an opinion here that we don't really have an ammo problem. What we have here is a cycling issue with the firearm itself. And there's one in the chamber. Same thing. So what kind of opinions do I have here? Well, we've kind of gone through a checklist, haven't we? Do we need to clean this? Yes, we took this down and completely cleaned it. That's well documented. Let's look and see if the extractor is grabbing a hold of the rims. It seemed to be. However, it may not be doing it consistently, and there's always that chance that something else is going on with that extractor. Now, I can send away to Numeric. I can get a different extractor for this firearm. I can't get a new one because they just haven't made these in a long time. So I can get a part which may be just as worn or just as potentially defective as this one is. So I don't know if I'm really going to be getting money ahead with that or not, but I can try it. The other thing that I'm wondering about is maybe if the spring itself is just too stout, maybe it's stiffened up too much after 50, 60 some odd years. And do you just trim maybe a 1/4 inch off the spring and reduce this tension going back? Because the one thing when I pull this back, lubricated or not, it does seem to have a lot of tension in it. But that remains to be seen. But we have checked off cleanliness. We have checked off ammo. We have checked off, hey, does it function the way it's supposed to in terms of mechanically? And it seems to be. So really the only 2 things I've got left now at this point to look at to make this thing function quote unquote perfectly is going to be the replacing the extractor and possibly seeing if I do have a spring issue if that doesn't work. I think it's also possible that a different magazine may make a difference, and that's something else we'll need to check out. Or here's the other thing I can do. This is a very accurate rabbit type gun where I know I'm always going to get that first shot off well. Probably needs to be an option I consider, is just leaving well enough alone and saying, hey, I have an older firearm. It's very accurate. It's fun to shoot, but it's not a reliable semi-auto repeater. The firearms enthusiast in me and the guy that likes to shoot Glocks and ARs and AKs and things like that struggles with that a little bit, but that just might be the case. We'll determine what we're going to do, but I think given that it's not a very expensive part and it's not really hard to replace, I am going to go ahead and see about replacing that extractor. I don't know how to properly shape it or bend it or any of that to make it work better. I don't want to start fooling around with that. I'd rather have an extra one on hand, see if the quote-unquote new one works better. So we'll see. We'll keep you posted. Now you might be asking yourself, why is it so important that I keep futzing around with what was a $30 rifle back in the 50s? In other words, hey, just go get you a brand new, Ruger 1022 or a Marlin or something of that nature. Why are you fooling around with this? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a challenge. And number two, when you're looking at a blowback type of operating firing system, what kind of troubleshooting approach and the different things we're looking at covers a lot of different firearms. So I'm hoping that, all together we can kind of learn some things, and maybe something that I come across or discuss or make a mistake with in one of these videos helps you with a gun that you're having some issues with. Okay, before anybody says, hey, have you tried this brand or that brand? Have you tried CCI? I think we pretty much covered the gamut between bulk type 22 ammo. Even this here advertises 1280 feet per second. High velocity ammo. Ammo that is solid round point versus hollow point type ammo. Different grain weights. We've tried, 37. We've tried 40. We've tried velocities up to 1450 feet per second. So I think before anybody's tempted to say, hey, Dave, what about this brand or that brand? We've covered the spectrum. If that firearm doesn't like any of these, then it's not an ammo issue. It's a firearm issue. The other thing that I'm kind of wondering about, maybe this magazine is a little bit too generous. In other words, maybe it needs to have these feed lips closed a little bit or something like that. I don't really want to start monkeying that around with this particular original mag that came with the rifle. This is a 12 rounder, and what was typical was 5 and 7 rounders. So I think I'm going to try to find one of those. I've seen them on eBay and whatnot. So we'll take a look at that, but I think it's either magazine or it's extractor, and possibly a good deal of it is me just accepting the fact that, hey, guess what? I've got an old rifle, and let's enjoy it for what it is. But there's always that. But considering that my standard of what a semi-auto loading firearm ought to do is something like this, which has never failed in thousands and thousands of rounds, or my ARs, or most of the AKs I've ever owned. It gets a little bit tough for me as a firearms guy to settle for something that doesn't function the way it's supposed to. But at some point, I just have to say, dude, it's an old budget gun. Shoot it and enjoy it. Anyway, I appreciate you watching. We'll, of course, keep you updated. This is Dr. Drake 63 saying so long.